Today we are working Psalm 55. In traditional psalm magic, Psalm 55 is frequently used to overcome any evil, to overcome the fear of death, to overcome feelings of betrayal, and to overcome all worries. A lot of overcoming in this one. It's also one of the cursing psalms. And today I'm going to gear Psalm 55 toward cutting ties, detaching, making a clean break. So whether it's with a person, a habit, a trend, whatever, we're using Psalm 55 to cut ties with something that is no longer serving us. The way we work psalm magic is simple, easy, and effective. We take the psalm we're working and we speak it out loud all the way through once without stopping. We call this an incantation. After the incantation, we go back through the psalm and we consider each verse one at a time. We search for hidden, often called occult, meanings that lie within each verse. We see those as magic seeds, and by searching for these and applying whatever we find to the situation we've brought to the psalm, we are dislodging all the seeds necessary for the fulfillment of our spell. Those seeds are then planted in the depths of our mind, where they take root. They grow, they blossom forth, and they bear fruit after their kind. And that's what we are going to do together right now with Psalm 55. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. And I said, O that I had wings like a dove, for then would I fly away and be at rest. Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it, upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together, and walked unto the house of God in company. Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is their dwellings, and among them. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray, and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. But thou, O God, shalt bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. It starts out with, Give ear unto my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. So God represents the one power, the one force, the one source in all the universe. In the original Hebrew, it's called Elohim, which is the gods, the host of heaven. And since there's but one power, one source, one force, there's nothing to oppose it. And since there's nothing to oppose it, there's nothing that can thwart it, nothing that can go against it. And one with this force is a majority. And whomever this force is for, nothing can be against. And this force is for us. by orienting ourselves to this force in this way at the beginning of our psalm work, we recognize that since nothing can go against us, our success is assured. Give ear unto my prayer, O God, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Now, obviously, the infinite's not going to hide itself. This is an affirmation that the infinite is always hearing us, but it is we who have to make the first move. So when we use the word to voice our supplication, to voice our intention, to voice our spell, that puts everything in motion, and the spell is thus begun. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise. So whatever it is that we are having to cut ties with, we are acknowledging the pain that it is causing us. It's important that we not rush right to the resolution. We have to make sure that we are honest about what we are experiencing, what we are feeling, and what we are going through. Now, the psalm is extremely dramatic about this, and that's fine. We can get into the drama of it all. We can gnash our teeth and roll around in this during the psalm, but understanding that the point of this is to release us from whatever it is that we're going through. And that's exactly the formula that this psalm follows. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. So I'm mourning and complaining about the fact that this enemy, whatever it is that I need to cut ties with, is oppressing me, is wicked toward me, is iniquitous toward me, wrathful, and hates me. Now, it may not be that the person that you're cutting ties with is all of those things, but what it's doing to you emotionally and how your ego is using whatever this person or the situation is against you is all of those things. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Very dramatic here, and it's important that we understand this is what the ego wants. The ego wants us dead. The ego wants us destroyed. The ego is self-destructive in nature, and it's using whatever the situation is against us. So regardless of what the degree of the problem that this person or the situation is causing us, the ego has no bottom to what it wants as far as self-destruction. You can't be a little upset. Just being a little bit upset, a little bit annoyed is the same as being really upset and really annoyed. It's all equally disturbing to your peace of mind. So understand that the ego has no bottom. It deals in self-hatred, in self-loathing, in self-destruction. So no matter what's going on, the ego loves it. It wants to use it against you. And I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly away and be at rest. I can escape what's going on by running away from it. If I could, I wish I could just run away from it. But we know we can't run away from it because it's coming from within our minds. Ultimately, regardless of what it is outside of us that we're cutting ties with, it's coming from within us. Lo, then would I wander far off and remain in the wilderness, Selah. I'd rather be all alone in the wilderness, starving to death, than going through what I'm going through. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. In AA, they call that pulling a geographic. Maybe if I move to another state, then I won't have these problems. Right? Maybe if I move to another country, I won't have these problems. If I get new friends, I won't have these problems. If I get a new marriage, I won't have these problems. If I buy new clothes, if I get a new religion. But you can't escape your own mind. You may get a temporary respite by trying to run away from your problems, but those problems are coming with you. You take them with you because you have them in your mind. The ego mind is at work constantly trying to thwart you. But the good news is the ego doesn't have power other than what we give it. It's not an entity. It's not a real thing. It's just a habit of thinking. And we can overcome this habit of thinking. And the way we overcome this habit of thinking is by thinking with a different part of our mind, a higher part of our mind. And that part of our mind is symbolized by what it's calling God, the higher part of our mind, what we are connected to as souls. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. So now we are petitioning this higher part of our minds directly to kill the problems. But the light doesn't kill the darkness. the light just shines and the darkness is revealed to be non-existent. It's revealed to be an illusion. And all of the problems that we're having ultimately will be revealed to be illusions as well. When we let the infinite be the infinite and we let the infinite do its job, this, of course, will be healed because the light will come on and the problem will be destroyed because it didn't exist in the first place in the way we think it did. Where it says, "For I have seen violence and strife in the city." The city is your inner peace. So that's destroyed your inner peace. That's why we said there's no little or big problems. They are all equally destructive to your inner peace. And you want your inner peace more than anything because that's where you dwell. That is the true city where you dwell. And the good news is it can't destroy the city. It can just make you think it's destroyed the city because you're being preoccupied with things that are not peaceful. But your inner peace is still in there. The city is still in there because it was created by the infinite and it can't be destroyed. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof, the walls of the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also and sorrow are in the midst of it. That's where they are. They're on the walls of the city. They're saying, don't come in here. We're going to fight you so that you can't get your inner peace. We're going to fight you so that you can't be happy, that you can't be successful, you can't be free, you can't be, do, or have any of the things that are your birthright. And how does it do that? How does the ego do that? By distracting you with unpeaceful thoughts, with those churning, racing thoughts, violent thoughts, destructive thoughts, defensive thoughts. And none of those come from the infinite. That's the only power the ego has, is to convince you to think upon its lines rather than think upon the lines of the infinite. Once you start using your mind to think thoughts of the infinite, then you're thinking with that different part of your mind that is like turning the light on in the dark room, and all of it just disappears. So we're still talking about the darkness here. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. So this is you again talking about how you cannot get peace of mind. You cannot get a respite from this. It's like these intrusive thoughts are self-perpetuating. No matter what you do, you can't help yourself. If there are people or events in your life which appear to be causing problems for you, if you were able to take charge of your mind, according to this psalm, and allow yourself to focus your mind on peace and on the infinite, those people and situations would lose all power over you. They would either disappear or they would change. And in this case, we're wanting to cut ties with them. That's fine. We can cut ties with them, but we can only cut ties with them by finding our peace. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. Now this is talking about being betrayed by a friend. So this may be what you're cutting ties from. You may have somebody in your life who's betraying you or who has betrayed you. But ultimately what's betrayed you is your mind. Your good friend, your mind, has betrayed you and started to think along a train of thought that is untrue. Your mind has been co-opted by this ego habit system where you believe you're separate from your good, you believe you're powerless, you believe that you're vulnerable, you believe that you can be attacked, you believe that you can be poor, you believe that you can have all manner of problems that the infinite doesn't will for you. So your friend has betrayed you, your mind. But the good news is that your mind can be reoriented. It can be reprogrammed. When you can allow your deep mind to believe a certain way, then things change according to that way. So that's what this psalm is ultimately doing, is cleaning out these errant thought forms from your deep mind and replacing them with thoughts of peace and certainty that the infinite is helping you. And when those thoughts take hold, everything changes, everything shifts. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. Again, we are talking about our mind here. Ultimately, now this can be reflected, like I said before, in worldly events. Maybe you do have a friend that betrayed you, a family member that betrayed you. Those things are real. We understand that. If that's true, you want to acknowledge that, you want to experience that when you're doing the psalm, but also ultimately understand that it's your mind that has betrayed you. We took sweet counsel together, and walked into the house of God in company. That's what the ego does. I'm your buddy. I'm your buddy. We're going to do all kinds of wonderful things together, all the while tempting you away from the truth, tempting you away from your inner peace, whispering thoughts about how bad they are and how bad you are and how bad this is. And the ego does it in a sly way. It does it in a very subtle way, making you think that those are your thoughts. But they're not your thoughts. Those are errant thoughts. Those are thoughts that aren't part of your soul. They're not part of the way that the infinite thinks. And when you start thinking along lines that are not true, your deep mind accepts those things as true, and you experience those things as true, even though they're not true. And that's how we become immersed in living in a world that is illusory. We become part of the Maya, part of the illusory world. And then it's up to us to recognize that we can't judge by appearances, and that everything that we think we see isn't what we think it is, and that we can retrain our minds to think along the lines of the infinite, and all of those illusions will be dispelled. Let death seize upon them, let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. This is us cutting ties. The evil destroys itself. Hell is not a place of torment in the Psalms, it's a place of nothingness. It's where the dust heap is. It's where the garbage goes. It's where nothing exists. The native nothingness of this hell is where all of those errant thought forms go, because they don't exist. So they go into nothing because they are nothing. So that's how you're cutting your ties, is you're acknowledging that those things don't even exist. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. This is a very wise moment. We're letting the dead bury the dead. We're letting the errant thought forms go into the dust heap of nothingness from whence they came, and we're reminding ourselves to think along the lines of truth. It's calling it God. God equals truth. God equals the infinite truth that is always present. Even though we may not see it, even though we may have convinced ourselves that it doesn't exist, it's still there. And so we're asking for the truth to reveal itself in place of whatever this is that we're cutting ties from. And that's where it says, and the Lord shall save me. To be saved means to be relieved from the problem. The problem's over. So maybe you're cutting ties with debt. Getting into debt is not part of the will of the infinite. When you're being saved from that, that means that the debts are gone, and that your tendency to get into debt is gone. And it's easy because it's the natural way that you were created. You were not created to be in debt. You were not created to be a, quote, debtor. When you allow those errant thought forms to go into the native nothingness from whence they came, and you pivot and turn toward the truth of who you are as a soul, you recognize you can't be in debt. There is no such thing as debt in the infinite mind. And therefore, you turn the light on, and that darkness of debt just goes away, just like the darkness in any room goes away when you turn the light on. That's how the Lord saves you. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. This is a very important point here. When you do work like this, you must reinforce the work you're doing, because the old habits are still going. Those are thought loops. Those are like tapes in your head that are still going around and around and around. And you have to have some systematic way of reminding yourself of the new truth, morning, noon, and night. Anytime you catch yourself worrying or being upset, you remind yourself, no, all is well. I'm thinking along the lines of truth. The infinite has this. All is well. Everything's working out in a wonderful way for me. And if you're cutting ties with, let's say, an abusive person or something like that, the ego will try to pull you back into that relationship or a relationship like it. When you notice it, you just say, no, I'm not interested in abuse anymore. All I want is the truth of the infinite. All I want is my peace. All I want is my happiness and my joy. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many with me. So the many that were with you are all those errant thought forms, but the infinite's delivered you already from that. And it's telling you how? In peace. So you go for the peace and you let the other stuff take care of itself. It falls away of its own weight when you don't give it any more airtime. You're going to focus on the peace. You're going to remind yourself, I am at peace. And if your mind starts racing, you just shut it down. I have a little tool called the off switch that's a great thing to use during these times when you can't seem to shut down your mind from these old thought patterns. And you can find that right on my YouTube channel. It's really easy to learn, and you just apply it again and again and again, and don't put up with that kind of chatter from your mind anymore. The only thing that's worth your while right now is peace. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Selah, because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. It doesn't matter how long you've been thinking this way. It doesn't matter how old this problem is. It doesn't matter how many generations worth of people have been thinking along this way in your family. None of that matters to the infinite. The light still works the same way. When you turn it on, the darkness is gone. So when God hears and afflicts them, that means that the darkness will always disappear when the light is turned on. So you're going to stop trying to save the darkness. You're going to allow the infinite to turn the light on and solve the problem for you. And it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't matter how old it is. None of it matters. Those old thought forms, they're never going to change, it says. They have no changes, therefore they fear not God. These are not God-fearing thoughts, meaning they're not aware of the presence of the infinite. So these thoughts are not real. They don't really exist. They're just hallucinations. Real thinking happens when you're thinking with the infinite. Otherwise, you're just dreaming and having a nightmare. And we want real thinking. And the way you have real thinking is by noticing when you're hallucinating, noticing when you're in those habits, and you just say, stop. I'm thinking peaceful thoughts. I'm thinking the thoughts of the infinite. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. So these are the thought forms in your mind that have broken the covenant, meaning they don't support you. They are out to destroy you. And you have to recognize that there are certain ways of thinking in this world that are self-destructive. And those thoughts, very frequently, our ego has convinced are our thoughts, that's what we want. And you have to recognize, if it's not peaceful, I don't want it. I don't want it, and therefore I don't want to keep it. And since I don't want to keep it, I'm letting the infinite take it. And it's that easy. But you have to be willing to have it gone. You can't protect it and then wonder why you can't get rid of it. Why doesn't the infinite take this from me? Because you don't want it to be gone. So notice when you're protecting those old thought forms, those old thought patterns, and just say, I don't want to keep this. I'm willing to let this go. You're not going to lose anything of real value when you do that. You're only going to lose your problems. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. That's the ego's game. If the ego just came right out and said, I hate you, I want you to be self-destructive, you wouldn't listen to that. You'd say, I don't want any of that. So it does it subtly. It does it really subtly and slyly. But just notice, if it's not peace, you don't want it. If it's not a thought that's bringing you peace and joy, prosperity, happiness, love, you don't want it. And so you're going to go cold turkey. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. You are the righteous. You can't help it. You can never be unrighteous, even if you try really hard. And the ego wants you to try really hard. But you can't. Even if it were to convince you to be unrighteous, it doesn't have that power, neither do you. Because you can't undo who you are as a soul. You are always going to be righteous. The infinite's always going to love you. There's never going to be a moment in time or a point in space where the infinite's done with you. So if you understand that from the gate, you'll understand that you are righteous and you may as well accept it. And since you're righteous, you have the right to cast your burdens on the Lord, because the Lord is the infinite. And the infinite, it says here, will never suffer you to be moved. So if you are serious about this, you can just say, I don't want to keep this. In other words, I cast my burden on the Lord. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I can't pay this bill. I cast this burden on the Lord. I hate this person. Okay, well, I cast that burden on the Lord. Whatever it is that's not peace is a burden for you. And you can cast it upon the Lord and be free. And you just tell yourself that. I cast this burden on the infinite and I go free. And if you have to say that 72 times an hour, say it 72 times an hour until it takes, and it will take. Because if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. Old habits don't have to die hard, but at first it seems like it. If you feel like you can't get rid of the burden, just keep at it. Keep at it. It'll go. But thou, O God, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. These problems are gone. They're gone. And as long as I don't hold on to them, the infinite will take care of them. But if I'm hanging on to them, the infinite has to respect me, has to respect my freedom, has to respect my choices. So if I remember to cast the burden on the infinite will take care of it. But if I say, no, I think I can keep this, I think I'll do it myself, I'm not quite done with this one yet, the infinite has to wait for me. But thou, O God, shalt bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out their days. The bloody and deceitful men are those thought forms, are those tendencies, are the causes, the mental causes that are causing any of these problems. And the infinite does not will it for you, therefore those problems have to be destroyed. And to be destroyed, again, is not as dramatic as it seems in this psalm. It's destroyed in the same way, like we've said several times now, that the darkness is destroyed when you turn on the light. It's not a big deal. It's easy. There's no difficult problem for the infinite. No matter what your problem is, the infinite can handle it. And so whatever you're cutting ties from, it's easy for you to do that. But remember, what you're ultimately cutting ties from is your old way of thinking that caused the problem in the first place. And you can do this. So you just keep coming back to the same psalm once a day until you get a sense of peace and certainty that the situation is resolving. And once you get that sense of peace and certainty, it's like a click. It's a signal to you from your deep mind, your spell has been cast. And once you have that understanding that your spell has been cast, don't cast it anymore. Don't work on it anymore. Don't think about it anymore. It's hands off. Let it go. Move on to something else, and all is being taken care of. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Until next time, blessed be.